The Brazilian national team has been struggling lately, but you already knew that. Dorival Jr has been fired from the Seleção Brasileira, and the federation has been looking for a new coach. The right coach, I would hope. Something they have failed miserably to find ever since Tite left back in late 2022. So who are the new candidates? Who will coach Brazil? Who should coach Brazil? Can any coach right now even fix the Seleção? Or is this team beyond repair? Today we're going to be talking about all the Brazilian coaching options, the realistic ones at least, and even though you didn't ask for it, I will be giving you my opinion on each of the coaching candidates. Because I can do whatever I want here. I'm the channel dictator. Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo and welcome to Chapéu Football, where you will find the best coverage of Brazilian football or Brazilian soccer in English on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed, you're missing out. Today we're going to go through 3 to 5 main candidates to take over the Brazilian national team within the next 2 to 3 months. And I will also tell you how realistic I think it is for each one of them. Keep in mind that this is being recorded April 9th of 2025. So if some crazy news breaks after we recorded this, I am sorry. There's no way for me to know ahead of time. I still haven't found a way to predict the future. Now in the comment section down below, let me know who do you want to be the new coach of the Brazilian national team. And just like the Backstreet Boys would say, tell me why. And also don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel because I dare you to do so. You don't want to lose this dare. Okay, let's start super quickly by catching up on what's going on. So after losing 4-1 to Argentina and being for over a year, Dorival Jr was fired by CBF, the Brazilian Football Federation, last month in March of 2025. The pressure right now in Brazil is to hire a foreign coach. The sentiment on Brazilian coaches is at an all-time low. And we made an entire video talking about why Brazilian coaches aren't very good right now, so go check out that video after you finish this one. With that said, I'm not going to be going through the Brazilian coaches in this video because I don't think we're going to hire a Brazilian coach. It's very likely going to be a foreigner. And some of the Brazilian media even asked for and speculated that maybe we should hire Jorge Machado. Please, we're trying to win a trophy here. Let's be serious, people. And if you think we're going to win with Jorge Machado, I don't know what to tell you. And keep in mind, no national team has ever won a World Cup with a foreign coach. But that is a flawed argument on its own, as we have seen plenty of big underdog deep runs in World Cups and even in the Euros with foreign coaches, like Portugal in 2006 under Felipão, or as you know him, Scolari, South Korea in 2002 with Gus Hiddink making it to the semifinals of the World Cup, Greece in 2004 in the Euros where they won it. And what's funny is that the only World Cup Jamaica has ever qualified to was thanks to a Brazilian coach called René Simões. That's because, Jamaican coaches are bad. That's how bad, actually, Jamaican coaches are. Don't even get me started with Jamaica. As someone that lives in the United States of America and covers CONCACAF on a separate channel, Jamaica is like Voltorb, right? They love to self-destruct. Trust me. Now listen, the only reason no national team has ever won a World Cup with a foreign coach so far is because top nations usually have good enough coaches to lead them to glory. Most of them don't really need to hire foreign coaches. Besides England over the past 20 years, which, they also have a coaching crisis of their own, just like Brazil. So if anyone tells you Brazil should not hire a foreign coach because no national team has ever won a World Cup with one, it's very simple. You tell them to shut up because that is a flawed narrative. As I said, there have been multiple foreign coaches that have done tremendous jobs with national teams that were not that great, or they got them to punch above their weight. They didn't win a World Cup, but they've done tremendous jobs. Now, if you give those coaches maybe a national team like Brazil, Argentina, Germany, whatever, France, then perhaps they would have won a World Cup by now. It's not really about the coach's nationality or passport. It's about being a good coach or a bad coach. And my point here, and we talked about this in a separate video, Brazil right now does not have that many competent coaches. Some will say maybe Felipe Luis, but it seems like he doesn't want the job, and he's still in the beginning of his career, so we don't really know how good Felipe Luis actually is. Flamengo's a very streaky team, so maybe they're just in a hot streak. Flamengo's like this. When things go well, they go very well. They win a lot of trophies. When things go bad, it's pretty bad. Like very, very bad. So let's see how Felipe Luis deals with when he has a crisis with Flamengo, if he reaches that point. Okay, now let's go through the realistic options that the Brazilian media has been reporting that CBF, the Brazilian Federation, is talking to and wants to hire very soon. The first one being the most obvious one of them all, Carlo Ancelotti, that at the time of this recording, he is still a Real Madrid coach. So it has been reported multiple times that Carlo Ancelotti is plan A. But we have seen this happen before where Brazil waited for Ancelotti only to end up with Fernando Diniz and Dorival Jr. Here's the thing, Ancelotti right now is under pressure at Real Madrid, and he could leave around June or July. Now, would he leave prior to June? Probably not. I find it unlikely that Real Madrid would fire him prior to the end of the season, even out of respect for the coach. And CBF, or at least the CBF President, Ednaldo, he did say he wants to announce a coach prior to the next World Cup qualifying window, which is early June, to have the coach in charge by then, which means he would have to announce a coach no later than May. If Ednaldo keeps his word, that pretty much cuts off the possibility of bringing Carlo Ancelotti. The good news here is that no one really trusts Ednaldo, except for a few state federations for obvious reasons that I won't talk about in this video. So it could be that he's bullshitting, and then they would wait for Ancelotti and hire him in July and just have an interim head coach, maybe Ramon Menezes, in June. I don't know, but if Ednaldo sticks to his word and he does hire a coach by May, if something's announced by May, it's very likely that it will not be Carlo Ancelotti. And personally, here's my opinion. Let me give you my actual opinion on this. So Brazil's not really at risk of missing out in the 2026 World Cup due to expanded spots in World Cup qualifying. Brazil's currently 6 points ahead of Venezuela, and Brazil faces Chile and Paraguay at home. That alone should be 4 points, at least, hopefully 6. And that's assuming that Brazil loses to Ecuador and Bolivia away. Brazil could pull points there as well. So unless you think Venezuela can beat Bolivia, Argentina, Uruguay, and Colombia, then Brazil's fine to qualify. So let's be honest here, Brazil is not really at risk of not qualifying to the 2026 World Cup, despite the horrendous campaign. And personally, I do think Ancelotti is the best option for Brazil. I'm not going to dive into details now, but if he is hired, I will make an entire video explaining why I think he's the ideal option. Style of play, resume, culture, everything. I mean, also the resume kind of speaks for itself. The dude has won 5 Champions League trophies, 2 of them being this decade. But that's for another video if he is hired. And if you asked me right now, what's the percentage or what's the chance that Brazil does actually hire Ancelotti? Based on what's being reported, I find it more towards it being unlikely. So I'm going to give it a 10% chance that Brazil hires Ancelotti, which is kind of low, but still realistic. And here's a little fun fact for you. Did you know that Carlo Ancelotti's farewell game as a player was a friendly match between AC Milan and Brazil in 1992, which Milan lost 1-0 to Brazil. Not that it really matters, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, I just find it cool that his last game as a professional player was playing for his club, right, Milan, against the Brazilian national team that maybe it'll be his last job as a coach. Maybe. Just a little fun fact for you. Okay, now option number 2 is Jorge Jesus, the Portuguese coach that currently coaches at the time of this recording Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia. So he was very successful in Brazil when he coached Flamengo back in 2019, winning the Brazilian League and the Copa Libertadores at the time. It has been reported many times that Jorge Jesus is plan B behind Carlo Ancelotti, but I would say as things stand right now, Jorge Jesus is clearly the favorite to coach the Seleção Brasileira. I would say it's probably around 60 to 70% chance that Jesus will take over. And let me tell you why. First, this dude's contract expires this June. Unlike Ancelotti, that would be next year, right? He could still be in charge of Real Madrid next season. And there have been reports that he would be willing to leave Al Hilal earlier to be in charge of Brazil during the June window. But it is tricky because according to Globo Esporte, he will not leave Al Hilal prior to the window of April 25 to May 3rd. okay? Because that's the quarterfinals, semifinals, and final of the Asian Champions League, which is the Copa Libertadores of Asia. After that, he could leave depending on Al Hilal's situation in the Saudi League. So based off that, it's very realistic that Jorge Jesus could leave Al Hilal right after May 3rd, which would be early to mid-May, which would put him in a position to be in charge of Brazil already in June, which kind of matches what, Ednaldo said of hiring a coach before the next World Cup qualifying window. But wait, there's more. It's also been reported that Jorge Jesus is willing to give up on the Club World Cup to be with Brazil right away. And this dude has been on a full PR campaign to get the job. He really wants this job. He really wants to be the Brazilian national team head coach. He had people in the media come out and say that he guarantees he has no issue with Neymar. But does Neymar have no issues with him? Regardless, I want to say this. As important as Neymar may still be for the national team, he should have no say on who is the coach. And he should find a way to get along with Jorge Jesus if Jorge Jesus is hired. Now, back in November of 2021, when Jorge Jesus was still in charge of Benfica, he made it pretty clear that he would love to coach the Brazilian national team in a press conference that he had. Okay, he didn't really say anything that he would do it. He even said that it's very unlikely that he would ever get the job. But he made it pretty clear that it was a dream of his. So that was what, like 4 years ago. So essentially the timing works. The coach wants the job. And he is a better option than any Brazilian coach right now. His style of play with Flamengo, at least when I watched it, it was very enjoyable, intense, and probably would work for this Brazilian generation. He also knows Brazilian soccer, he can manage big egos, and he does speak Portuguese. He would absolutely be a good hire if hired. And if he does get hired, sorry for saying hired many times, we would make a full breakdown video of this massive news. I also want to add that recently, Mauro César, which is a very well-known Brazilian journalist, said that CBF is willing to pay the $2.5 million, which is the fee to get Jorge Jesus out of Al Hilal in May. Nothing there is official, but I'm assuming Mauro César is not lying. And listen, if I was to bet money or put money on a name to be the head coach of Brazil within the next 1 to 2 months, I would bet money on Jorge Jesus. But this is not betting advice. This is not gambling advice. Do not gamble. You will lose a lot of money. And you will go broke. And possibly lose your wife. Don't gamble. Okay, so we talked about the first two main options, but there is a third one. And this one is a good option, kinda. I'll talk about it in a second. And it is realistic, but I also find it unlikely. And if you made it this far in the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much for that. Option number 3 that has been speculated at times is Abel Ferreira, that has been in charge of Palmeiras for nearly 5 years. I am a Palmeiras fan, and to me, he's the best coach this club has ever had. He ain't perfect, but the results speak for itself. 2 Brazilian League trophies, 2 Copa Libertadores trophies, 3 state championships, 1 Brazilian Cup, all of that in just 4 seasons. However, just like Carlo Ancelotti, Abel Ferreira is under contract. So again, it's like trying to date a woman that is in another relationship or married. Don't go after a married woman. That never ends well. But this is football, not a marriage. So it is okay to flirt with a coach under contract. When asked about the interest of the Seleção, Abel Ferreira was very dismissive of it, saying that the Palmeiras president was clear about it, that Abel Ferreira is under contract. Alright, so now let me tell you my opinion on whether or not Abel should be hired, will he be hired, just my general thoughts on this rumor. First and foremost, I give it a 1% chance that the Seleção Brasileira hires Abel Ferreira. The contract is an issue, right? He's still under contract to Palmeiras. There's also too much Palmeiras in him, which I can see some clubs and even fans opposing this hire. He's also very much results driven, which is good for the Seleção Brasileira, but his style of play would drive many insane. Palmeiras plays ugly football. Horrible soccer. It's painful to watch. Very results driven, but it can make your eyes bleed. Abel Ferreira is a brilliant coach. I love Abel Ferreira. But he is what I call normally a soccer terrorist. Yeah, there are many other coaches like that. Jose Mourinho would be a soccer terrorist as well. Diego Simeone. It's just guys that are very results driven, and they play the ugliest brand of football in the world. But hey, they win trophies. Now, I can see CBF considering his name. I just don't see them actually going for Abel Ferreira. And I also don't see Abel wanting this job. I feel like he's either going to stay with Palmeiras for a few more years, or he's just going to head back to Europe. So those are the three main options. I would be shocked if anyone else was hired as the Brazilian national team coach outside of Ancelotti, Jorge Jesus, or Abel Ferreira. However, there are 2 to 3 other names that the Brazilian media has speculated. I think these names are mainly for media clicks, right? So the media can just get people talking about it. But, you know, I might as well talk about it as well. So Jose Mourinho is a name that has been speculated. I don't think the interest there is real. He's also under contract in Turkey till June of 2026, and they pay him a lot of money. His style of play would also piss people off, just like Abel Ferreira. As I said, Jose Mourinho is also very much results driven, and he is a soccer terrorist. But you know what he would give us? Some banger press conferences and possibly good results. I don't know these days if Mourinho would also do well with the Brazilian national team. Also, apparently, Roberto Mancini has been offered. Mancini is likely just, you know, his agent trying to get his name out there because he did a pretty shit job with the Saudi Arabian national team. Sure, he did win the Euros with Italy back in 2021, but he also failed to qualify to the 2022 World Cup with the Italian national team. I would avoid Roberto Mancini. I don't think he's a good option for Brazil. He hasn't done a good job with Saudi Arabia. He kind of failed with Italy, if you think about it. He didn't qualify to the World Cup. And I don't know how much interest he would have in this job. It could just be one of those where he's just a mercenary that wants to take money. So I would avoid him. I also don't think Brazil is actually interested in signing him. I think that was just his agent putting his name out there. They also did speculate about Pep Guardiola. Of course, I get it, for clicks. But look, he's under contract with Manchester City till 2027. Also, his positional play tactics take some time to implement, and we're only 1 year away from the World Cup. Plus, you need to add the fact that Pep Guardiola has never coached a national team. I'm never going to oppose Brazil hiring Pep Guardiola one day, but not at this time. And I think it's fair to question whether or not his style of play does suit the Brazilian players, because it very likely does not. But Pep Guardiola is a very smart guy. He's a brilliant guy. And I think if given time, he would make things work. The problem is we're only 1 year away from the World Cup, so he wouldn't have much time. It's also weird that I've seen almost no rumors about Jurgen Klopp, right? He hasn't been speculated, and he's technically, no, he is actually unemployed right now in terms of being a head coach. Regardless, as I said before, Ancelotti, Jorge Jesus, and Abel Ferreira are the 3 realistic ones, and I'll be shocked if it's not one of those 3 that is announced as a head coach within the next 2 to 3 months, with Jorge Jesus being the clear favorite. Okay, now before we close, here are my final thoughts. Look, a lot of the short-term issues can be fixed if Brazil hires the right coach. But it's not just about hiring a freaking random foreign coach. The style of play matters, a proven resume, ability to manage egos, and understand and know the Brazilian players and culture. That's why I keep saying Jorge Jesus, Ancelotti, and Abel Ferreira are definitely the best options, with Ancelotti being the best option in my opinion, Jorge Jesus being the second one, and Abel Ferreira being the third one. However, as I said before, I'm expecting Jorge Jesus to be announced very soon. I'll keep saying this, Ancelotti should be the priority, but I don't know if it'll happen. Alright everyone, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Who do you think will coach Brazil? Who do you want to coach Brazil? And tell me why. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you made it this far in the video, and have a great day. Bye-bye.